What's going on, guys? Today is Thursday, August 26th, 2021. The market is closed, and this is going to be the start of when I'm planning to be a lot more videos like this. It's just going to be an end of the day type of recap on some of the best opportunities or some of the best plays of the day, look based on the algo levels that we have, as well as the confluence of, in this case, the newly introduced 2-day anchored VWAP. Some of you guys have already started incorporating your own style of momentum breakout trades and things like that. I'm going to show you guys how I use it, what I look for, what's directly in my playbook. Most importantly, the name of the game here is really just looking for confluence, and confluence with the weekly levels as well as the 2-day anchored VWAP are going to prevent some really amazing trades. We'll take a look at some of the options a little bit towards the end so we can see what type of trade opportunities that are there, and then I'll just highlight, I think I'll go over one or two of the trades in which I took today, but it's not really necessarily about the trades in which I take. I just want to point out a lot of the opportunity out there. And we'll start right now with Amazon. Now, this is a pretty simple playbook trade that you guys should be looking for. As I already mentioned, we have the weekly sell zone right here. And in this particular case, Amazon was showing a lot of relative strength to the market. We'll take a look at the SPY shortly. This is our 2-day anchored VWAP. And as we can see, the market opened and the weekly level held. And then we came back to the 2-day anchored VWAP. And then we came back to the 2-day anchored VWAP. So in this particular case, the confluence right here of the 2-day anchored VWAP as well as the weekly level is a good setup. Let's take a look at what we see pre-market when you're forming your game plan. As we can see, it's already kind of hovering around this area. Once we saw strength at the open, this is the 5-minute time frame. I'm not going to look at the 1-minute time frame. I'll just stick to the video to keep everything at the 5-minute time frame to keep it pretty brief. But if you're not taking the play at the opening drive, as we can see, we have one opportunity here, we have another opportunity here to take the play, and using our intraday zones as a profit target and using the strike prices of this for the option, or using whatever option had the highest open interest or volume. So again, it is a Thursday, so the options are relatively, well, not even relatively, they are very cheap right now. And if we take a look at the option right next to it right here, I figure let's do the option before I move on to the next ticker. This right here, what we're looking at is the 33.50. So this would be considered the cheap out the money option. So at the open, the contract was going for about $2.90. But as we can see, if we waited till a little bit later, right here on this third touch, or even if you took it on the second touch of the 2-day anchored VWAP, you're getting these contracts for about, we'll say, $2.50. And it is Amazon, so sometimes it's a little nerve-wracking to hold. So if you took VWAP as your exit, which would have been here, or if you took VWAP as an exit on the option itself, you're talking about a $1 move in for a scalp. So from here to here, just a reversion back to VWAP is one type of trade. But if you're looking for the trade to hold, so from here, or if you got in here, again, pretty much the same entry, anything between $2 and $2.50, and your exit is up here, or you're selling into strength, which would be right here. You're talking about an exit of around $7 or $8. So anywhere from a 30% return if you took it here, or upwards up to a 200% return if you sold it in this area. If you decided to take an option of the we'll say the 33.30 strike price in this particular case, because you had reasons to believe this would be the one that would actually go in the money, you didn't want to go with the out the money one, even though the other one had the highest open interest in volume, you wanted to go with the one that had higher chances of actually going in the money. What we're looking at is the 33.30 call option. Again, these are all the options that we're going to be looking at in these videos are the ones that expire tomorrow. So we're talking about the weeklies, the same day, the 0-day expirations and stuff like that. In this particular case, you're talking about getting the option around $4.50, we'll say. So an entry of around here. We're not looking for the perfect entry. We're just talking about in this general vicinity right here. So anything between $6 and $5. So we'll say $5.50 would have been a viable entry. And we're talking about, again, just using the 2-day anchored VWAP if you were not buying right here at this confluence zone, and then selling the same thing here, or selling when you up here into strength, or selling at the actual target up here. You're still talking about over 150% return from here to here. So a monster trade right here. We're talking about $8 in premium at least. Moving right along to the next ticker, we have is NVDA. Now NVDA, we know how powerful 2 Sigma is. We see the type of price action that was happening, the pennant that was forming yesterday. Just looking at technical analysis, we do have the Quant Trading App level right here of 2 Sigma. Again, everybody that's a member in here, you guys should already at this point know what 2 Sigma is. If you're still unaware of how to trade or use these levels, please send me a message, and I would love to do just a one-on-one with you over the weekend just to really bring you up to speed with some of these trading opportunities. But what we have right here is just magic with the 2-day anchored VWAP in confluence with this area. We see the wick rejection right off of the open. I'm not always taking trades right at the open. I do like to wait 15 minutes or so after the market is open. So this right here, very viable trade opportunity. Again, keeping it simple, it's the confluence. If you're just talking about the confluence, it's the direction of the 2-day trend, and it's also the confluence of the 2-day anchored VWAP, and then we have 2 Sigma. We know price is not going to want to close over 2 Sigma by tomorrow's expiration, so this is already going to be a lot of sell pressure that's happening right at this level here in this area. So technical analysis lines up with the Algo levels, also lines up with the 2-day anchor VWAP, and then we have a little bit of a candlestick pattern right here on this 5-minute time frame. What did the option look like? Let's pull this up real quick, and we're talking about the 220 strike. The 220 strike had a lot of open interest and volume, and it pretty much is very close to our intraday buy zone, which you should be using as a profit target. If you're not using it as a reversion to the mean type of trader, if you're using it as a profit target, always look for the strike prices around these levels. That's why they're here. If you're looking to go long, use that as your strike price, either this or this one. And if you're looking to go short, use the strike prices around it as your price target. So here goes the 220 put, and if we're talking about getting the entry at the 2 Sigma slash 2-day anchored VWAP level, we're talking about getting in at around $1. The contract hit a low of 89 cents, but assuming you're getting in between $1.20 and $1.80 or so, we'll just average it to $1, and you're selling this put option, taking profit as soon as it got close to the buy zone. You're not waiting for the exact buy zone, or let's just say you were taking it right here as soon as we broke down low a day, which is always usually a viable price target, and you're selling at $2. You're talking about 100% return and a very painless trade. Moving right along, we have SPY. I was in puts on the SPY from yesterday, but we're not. This video again is not about reviewing all of the trades in which I took or the reasons for why I took them, but from a day trader's mentality, what we have right here is the SPY gaps down below the 2-day anchored VWAP. So let's take a look what this looked like pre-market, and we see this right here. So we can already see for pre-market, you can already form some sort of a conclusion. You can see that there's a lot of pressure holding the SPY down from yesterday's zone. There's also confluence right here. If you're just using support and resistance and things like that, we can see the downward pressure. We turn pre-market off, which is something I like to do after the market opens, and we can see right here, market opens here, pushes right up to the 2-day anchor VWAP. It looks like it was also a minor gap fill, and what we had was price getting stuck right here and then breaking down. Now, why is this also another one I want to highlight? It's because look at where the SPY is. It is already in the sell zone, which means we want to be looking for some sort of short trade opportunities, unless of course we had cleared this zone early in the week. If we clear this zone and then we come back into it, then we want to look for some sort of a continuation plates for possibly 2 Sigma. But because the market was up in this zone for 3 days already, and we were at 2 Sigma support last week, the market came from a very low point already. It already used a lot of its momentum to get up here. It's going to take a lot more momentum to push us up higher, so you should already be looking for some sort of a short trade. If you're not going to be shorting the SPY, you should be looking for short opportunities in some other tickers. But here goes your entry right here, 2-day anchor VWAP, and we're in the sell zone, so that checks off a couple boxes. Also taking note of market context, tomorrow there's a major news catalyst with the Jackson Hole. The Fed is going to be talking. Fed Chairman Powell is going to be talking, and there's a lot of uncertainty and fear, and whenever that happens, usually the VIX starts to rise. There's a lot of fear in the market. We usually get some sort of a pullback. So there's a little bit of a fundamental reason. We have the Quant Trading App sell zone. We also have the 2-day anchored VWAP. We saw the rejection from pre-market already, so there you go, and easy entry and your target. Use this as your strike prices for your puts. So we're talking about the 447 or the 446. Let's take a look. on the options chain right here. So here goes the put. So just getting it as soon as it hit to the 2-day anchored VWAP within the first 5 minutes, you're talking about a 60 something cent option, 63, 65. Let's say you got in at 70 cents. Again, it's not about having the exact entry. We're just talking about the general vicinity here. And assuming you took profits right here, from a scalper's perspective, that's 30 cents on this option. That's decent in itself. But there's also another entry right here, because once we formed this little very bearish pattern right here, once we broke down below the zone, we know where we're coming from. So even if you didn't get the perfect entry and you're using this as an exit, if you're in here, assuming you're also buying the breakdown right here, which is a very easy, you don't need an algorithm to tell you this is a decent sell opportunity here, even using pre-market analysis and things like that. Outside of Quant Trading App, this is a very good entry for a momentum-based scalp down to this level. So that's why I just highlighted these two levels. So even if you got in at 90 cents and you're selling at $1.80, or you're getting it at 63 cents and you're selling at $1.80, either way, you're talking about close to 100% return on the SPY. And these are all trades that you don't have to sit in for more than an hour, not even less than 2 hours, we'll say on average. If we jump to the next trade, we have Facebook. Similar situation with Facebook. It was over the weekly sell zone already, and we know context of, again, where the market is, and here we have it right here, a couple rejections. So we see the wick rejection at the open. Again, this is just being patient and waiting, and then we see 15 minutes after the market open, another rejection. So even if you don't get these two entries or anything like that, because you're not scalping or you're paying attention to other things and you wait, we're talking about at 10 a.m. at this point. Here goes our wick rejection, so we're getting in somewhere around here. Let's take a look at the option. At this point, you guys should pretty much get the gist using the 365 put. Why? Because it's in confluence with our zone. We're talking about an entry of around 80 cents. So as I move my mouse around at this point, you should be able to see that the crosshairs are synced up. So right here, we're talking about 80 cents for this option and all the way up to $1.60. So 100% return at least. Why there? We have a little bit of this confluence right here. So you might not want to hold for all the way down to here, because more than likely there's going to be some sort of demand in this area. That's just using supply and demand. So an exit of here, there's nothing wrong with that. You never know if this is going to happen. You know, at this point, if you see some sort of buying pressure coming in here, I can't say that I would even be holding for all the way down here. I would have been more than happy with that as an exit, which is why I highlighted this as the more realistic exit on the trade and not up here. Either way, still 100%. And moving right along, Square. So Square, I did take Square. I'll spend an extra minute going over Square, but for starters, what we have a nice rejection right here at the 2-day anchored VWAP, and then it went straight down. So my trade on Square, I traded the 260 put, and we have, as you guys know, if you didn't know this is super important. There's a lot of edge trading towards Thursdays and Fridays, and the Quant Trading App, most importantly, towards the end of the week, we get these price targets, and it kind of gives us a little bit of a general idea for where price is likely to go. And let me just pull up the Discord real quick, and here we have, this was the bearish target straight from the algo itself, telling us this is more likely where Square is to go. This right here is just telling us its score that Quant Trading App has it. It's saying that it's not very strong. It only has 45% strength. It's giving us the bearish target. So the lower this number is, whenever something gives a bearish target, it's going to catch my attention. Like if this was 30, this is out of 100, by the way. So if it was only 30 and I had a bearish target, I'm definitely going to size up a lot more on the puts. But in this particular case, if we jump back to the chart here and we take a look from a scalp perspective, we have this little bit of a potential supply up here if you're using technical analysis and stuff like that. But that aside, keeping it simple, here is the 2-day anchor VWAP. Quant Trading App, this is the target it had on it, 261.20. 261.20. Again, you guys know this. We have these levels from pre-market. So you have hours. Actually, I think it becomes available at 3 or 5 a.m. in the morning on Thursday mornings, right on the website itself. So we all have access to viewing it. And if you didn't know, it's right here on the website. If you just press the trade ideas, it's the first tab that pops up. And for now, you guys all have access to it. I can't say I'm going to keep this available in the future just because of its process. Everybody that presses this button, it's going to load up a lot, and it's calculating a lot of information, so it will slow down the app in itself. But I'll make sure to do my best. There will be a few of us that will always have access to this, and in the Discord in itself, if I'm not going to be posting it, I'll make sure it's always posted at least in the Discord for you guys that are not, checking out the website or something like that. But it will always be posted somewhere. For now, you guys all have access to it. You don't have to wait for me to post it. It's always here. So these are our trade ideas for tomorrow. But that's I'll take a look at some of these. I probably won't do that in the video, but it's interesting that Roku has an updated bearish target here. I'll take a look at that on my own after this video. But anyway, so this was the bearish target for Quant Trading App. So I had marked it off pre-market, already was aware of it, and the puts in itself were super cheap at this point. So if we pull this up right here, we'll see here goes the put. So as it touched the level, they were going for 50 cents. Now I didn't get in until they were going for 70 cents was my fill. But either way, it's just identifying what's going on here. We get back below VWAP. There's also this is weakness right back below VWAP. So if you're not catching it at 2-day anchor VWAP and you're taking it at VWAP, also around the same time that the market was starting to show signs of weakness. So we had confluence again, is trading in direction of the trend for the week. So if we take a look at square right here, we can see there was a little bit of a downward pressure going on top of that. This is where we opened the week, and I think this was the low of the week. So we have a breakdown below the low of the week. There was also this gap right here, which I really liked. So I did a video on this for you guys on Tesla. I believe it was like 3 weeks ago, versus the Quant Trading App levels that was printing out a couple weeks ago, on why I didn't take it 1 week and I took it another. It's just I don't like to see any type of interference between the Quant Trading App level and where we currently at. So in this particular case, there was a nice beautiful gap below, so it makes it very easy to say this is just going to want to fill the gap, because even before having an algorithm, we would probably be looking for gap fill type of trades. And on top of that, I liked that there was a lot of room all the way down to here. There was also a lot of room down to the intraday buy zone, and I liked that the Quant Trading App, everything kind of aligned. So I figured at least I was going to be getting at least the midpoint. So which is why I took some contracts off here and I left the last piece and I closed it here. I didn't hold it for the full target, but that's all good. It was already a monster win, and we're talking about from here to when I first sold, which would have been in this vicinity here, over 250% return if you're getting it at the 2-day anchored VWAP. If you're getting it just at VWAP, it still ends up being a very nice trade. We're talking about from 80 cents to $1.70 at least. Moving right along, we have the Qs, so we're almost done here actually. So looking at the Qs, again, this is the context of where we are for the week. Similar, the Qs showed a little bit more strength, so it actually broke out of its zone here. So if this was any other type of week, I would have been looking for a long trade on the Qs actually, but understanding what's going on in the broader market, but keeping it simple, this is our confluence with the zone. This is the 2-day anchored VWAP. We can see multiple attempts to crack, and then we can see the weakness that comes in. So anything in this area here provided a really good trade opportunity, and using this as our potential target. So if we take a look at the Qs, what did this contract do? At this point, I think you guys pretty much get the gist of it. Over 100% return. This right here is exactly when we hit the 2-day anchored VWAP. So we're talking about from, we'll round it to 70 cents. So from 70 cents to $1.40, and using this as your exit. I'm not using most of my exits. I'm not pointing out as like the perfect exit, because it's not very realistic. You guys can, however, get pretty much close to the perfect entry. These are 5-minute time frames that we're also looking at on the option. So this is a whole 5 minutes. In other words, this is 10 minutes that the Qs was hovering around 70 cents. So there's plenty of time to get into these trades, which is why I don't like looking at 1-minute candles and stuff like that. It makes you feel as if you missed that one candle, then the trade's done. Whereas I'm showing you guys within 10 minutes, there's plenty of time to get a few contracts in a lot of these different plays. And what we have here is the exit, why that as a potential exit, and we can see we didn't hit all the way down to the target. Let's just take a look at the context. We have a little bit of potential demand zone that was built up right here from early in the week. So seeing this, identifying this, beautiful exit here, not necessarily saying you're holding out for this, because unless you're swinging, if you're trading 0 days, you don't want to be holding that long. Now I'm in some next week Friday puts. I'm also in some monthly puts and stuff like that, so for September, and it's only August still, so I'm not concerned. I didn't necessarily close out my SPY puts and things like that because I wasn't scalping the SPY today. I scalped Roku and Square, which we'll get into. But either way, you guys can see still 100% return from the 2-day anchored VWAP. Using this could also be a potential target because you guys should be interacting with any of these levels here if you're in a trade. I think lastly, there's 2 more tickers to just bounce over, so not going to spend as much time in the IWM. The IWM, you guys can see it's not perfect. It did push over the level, so it's by no means perfect, you know, exactly here, but it's all about risk reward. So if we talk about what you're necessarily risking, and assuming you got into the IWM and you got in a little early, the contracts are going for 50 cents and we're using 220 as our strike price. Why? Again, because this is the zone and we're talking about 50 cents. So even if you bought early and you got it for 50 cents here, the contract goes down to 45 cents, you're down 5 cents. I don't really think you're in much pain when you're understanding, again, this is all around the same time the market was hitting 2 sigma, the SPY was hitting its 2-day anchor VWAP and stuff like that. And on top of that, if you're using this as your risk level here to stop out and things like that, you can look for other measures for how you're going to take your stop, or you're waiting for the first red candle to then enter the trade. Either way, anything between here is, if you ask me, a good entry, because again, it's not about having the perfect entry, it's about good risk reward and identifying what you're entering as a trade and using this as an exit here instead of holding out your full position. For here, you should be peeling some off. If you're not peeling at VWAP, depending on your size, you have an exit at VWAP, you have an exit here, and then you have an exit here. Either way, the average of that will say will end up being about 150% return from 50 cents all the way up to $1.25. Now let's just jump next to Roku. Roku is an interesting one that I do want to point out. So this was the Quant Trading App targets. I took Roku today, but I did not go short on Roku. I took it on the open. So here's another instance of the 2-day anchored VWAP. We can see the market opens, and Roku was one of the only tickers, one of the few tickers that actually closed on a 15-minute time frame, as well as these 5-minute candles right here over the 2-day anchored VWAP. That right here, after this thing has been consolidating for a while, it had earnings recently. I'm not going to look at the macro pitch of things, but I already knew last week Roku was one of the only tickers that did not sell off into its buy zone on the Quant Trading App last week. So it showed relative strength last week, and then this week it just consolidated. So the fact that it showed a little bit more relative strength right there was enough of a reason for me to jump into the calls. That plus the fact that they were very cheap. We'll take a look at it in a second, but I want you guys to understand that it was like identifying that this is one of the only tickers that actually closed over the 2-day anchor VWAP. That showed strength. It was already at the midpoint. If we take a look at what this looks like with the extended hours on, we can see that from pre-market, this was holding. This midpoint level here was holding. It was holding yesterday, came down and touched, didn't buy it right here, waited for it to come up here, and once it held over this level, I was like, okay, now I'm interested, because understanding that just because Quant Trading App had its bearish target on it, you guys remember what I said, I don't like to take it short if the midpoint is still there. It has to clear the midpoint. So now if Roku had cleared this level from pre-market, or it opens below here, or let's just say it broke down and came back to here, I would take that short on the retracement trade using this as my target. But because this midpoint is in the way, it's a structure that's in the way, is the reason why I'm not going to be interested. Even though Quant Trading App said this was the short target, I'm not taking it. Now taking the puts maybe here is a different story, because we know this is our sell zone. So if you waited for the backside weakness, so you waited for price to come down and then come back up, and then you decided to enter the short trade here, that's a different story, because you're entering a different trade. But on the opening and using the 2-day anchor VWAP, that's the way the way I was looking at it. And if we take a look at the calls right here, this right here is at 9:55. So a whole 25 minutes after the market opened, I was in the calls actually right before it cleared. I was in at 55 cents, so I got in a little bit right before it actually was right here. But if we're looking at this now, we're talking about from here up to the intraday zone, you're talking about an exit of a buck 30, so at least 120% return. And if you're holding for the full move, I believe it was how much? I think it was over 300% at one point. So from here to 300% at that point. And if you're in a little bit earlier, you're talking about a little bit more. All right, moving right along. Let's jump to the next. Moving right along. Okay, we're back to Amazon, and then just one more I want to point out is GS, because one of our members did take the GS trade. It was not on my radar. It's not something I trade, but I do have there are a couple of the banks, the financials in the Quant Trading App watch list. Bank of America and Goldman Sachs are the two most important ones, I guess you can say. I guess that's debatable, but either way, irrelevant for now. Let's take a look at this right here. So let's take a look first and foremost at pre-market, see if we see anything, because I know that's when we're doing most of our preps as traders. Here we have it over the 2-day anchored VWAP, one of the only tickers that was over the 2-day anchored VWAP from pre-market. Really love to see this type of a retracement here. You guys can see it came back and it closed right at the zone. So remember what I mentioned about the SPY, usually what we want to look for. This is a prime example of a ticker that broke out of its zone and came back, and it was holding it here. So the gap up was already a good sign, and then you have a clear level to risk off of, either the 2-day anchored VWAP or below this level right here, or this level right here. But it wouldn't make sense to take a stop loss here. You might as well use below this level here. But you guys can see this thing came straight down. It touched it right after, a couple minutes after the open, and then it went up to 2 sigma. This is the type of price action you want to see if you're expecting a ticker to go to 2 sigma, which is possible. 2 sigma just means it has less than a 5% chance of actually closing above this level by Friday. However, it doesn't mean it might not go to the level before Friday, but you guys can see the moment it crosses over this level, option sellers are going to be selling a ton of calls, because I know everyone's buying calls that don't really have a high probability of expiring in the money, and that's what's going on up here. So we see this from a trade standpoint. We'll take a glance at the options using the 420 calls as a targets. I don't have the intraday levels not on here. I'm gonna update that. I guess I don't know where the intraday levels for the algo are on Goldman Sachs, but either way, we have the weekly levels and we know where 2 sigma is, and buying it at the 2-day anchored VWAP, we're talking about a 95 cents. We'll say $1 entry, and then selling at 2 sigma is a beautiful $2.50. So 150% return. The full move was worth almost a whole extra $1 from that. But this is the first of this, so I probably went over a few more tickers than I needed to, but it's just I'm working on the more detailed explanations to a lot of these setups and showing you guys a proper playbook and things like that on the Quant Trading App site, more detailed breakdown of this stuff. But I figured for now I could do this quick recap. In the future it might just be 3-5 tickers tops or something like that, just showing you guys what to look for. It's pretty simple here. Again, it's just like pay attention to this 2-day anchor VWAP. Amazon showed the relative strength, it was over it, and it had confluence. If it lines up with some of the other levels, this level here, if it's an intraday level, or if it's at the top of these zones, in this particular case we didn't have anything at the and their buy zones, of course, but if something lines up with a buy zone and then you got like the 2-day anchored VWAP and prices over it, you can, you know, take that trade, or you see a wick rejection, take that, because we're more than likely to continue up. So guys, message me in Discord, or you know, feel free to post in the chat if you don't have any questions about some of these things, because I know 2-day anchor VWAP is something that you guys might not have even heard of. It's not necessarily that's something that's very common. It is very, very powerful and very, very simple to use. And if you're watching this on YouTube and you're not a member of Quant Trading App, link is in the description down below to join the Discord. And I don't post in the public section. I keep it, you know, I'm very busy in the public section, just really making sure I'm helping out the traders that are part of the gold membership. And I really am trying to spend a lot of time with each of them, so I don't have much time to upkeep the public section. I'm hoping that changes in the future. But if you are interested, by all means, join the Discord. You guys can message me there in the public chat. But if you're really looking to get in touch with me, join the premium section. And for the most part, I'm there every day. I am live on mic and I do answer questions. I do walk things through live as they're happening. Otherwise, leave a comment down below. And again, expect to see a few more of these types of recap videos. Take care, everybody.